I never thought the worst day of my life would come after my parents were already gone. My name is Elena, and for 28 years, I believed I was part of a loving family. Sure, my younger sister Madison was always the golden child, the one who got the bigger birthday parties, the designer clothes, the brand new car when she turned 16, while I got our mom's old sedan. But I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself that love wasn't measured in material things. I was so wrong. The day of the will reading, I sat in that lawyer's office with my hands folded in my lap, trying to hold back tears. My parents had died in a car accident just 3 weeks earlier. The grief was still raw, still crushing. Madison sat beside me, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, her perfectly manicured nails catching the light. The lawyer, Mr. Harrison, was an older man with kind eyes. He cleared his throat and began reading. I barely heard the legal jargon at first. My mind was still stuck in the fog of loss. But then I heard the numbers. To our beloved daughter Madison, we leave the sum of $10 million, along with the family estate, the vacation home in Aspen, and the investment portfolio. My heart stopped. $10 million? I knew my parents were successful. Dad had built a tech company from the ground up, and Mom had been a brilliant financial advisor, but I had no idea they had accumulated that much wealth. I waited. Surely my name would come next. Surely there would be something for me too. Mr. Harrison continued. And to our daughter Elena, I leaned forward, my pulse racing. We leave our love and our belief in her strength. Elena has always been independent and capable. We trust she will continue to earn her own way in life, as she always has. We know she doesn't need our money to succeed. The room started spinning. I felt like I'd been slapped across the face. Madison's hand flew to her mouth, but I could see that flicker in her eyes. Not surprise, not shock. She already knew. Wait, I managed to whisper, my voice cracking. That's it? That's all they left me? Mr. Harrison looked uncomfortable. He shuffled the papers. There is one more thing. Your parents left you their old photo albums and your grandmother's ring. The ring is noted here as having sentimental value. Sentimental value. While my sister got $10 million and 2 houses, I got photo albums and a ring worth maybe $2,000. Madison reached over and squeezed my hand. Elena, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they would. I pulled my hand away. Something in her voice sounded off. Too rehearsed. Too prepared. Did you know? I asked quietly, looking directly into her eyes. She hesitated for just a second too long. Of course not. How could I? Did you? No. Her face changed. The mask of sympathy slipped. Just for a moment, and I saw something cold underneath. They made their choice, Elena. Maybe if you'd spent more time with them instead of always working, things would be different. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about the will. This was something deeper, something planned. And my baby sister was right at the center of it. I stood up, my legs shaking. I need to go. Mr. Harrison tried to stop me. Miss Elena, there are papers you need to sign. Send them to my apartment, I said, already walking toward the door. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just needed to get out of that room before I completely fell apart. Outside, the spring air hit my face like ice water. I stood on the steps of the law office, watching people walk by, completely unaware that my entire world had just shattered. Cars passed. Birds chirped. The world kept moving like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. For 2 weeks, I barely functioned. I went to my job as a marketing coordinator, smiled when I needed to, and then went home to my tiny apartment and cried myself to sleep. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined possible. My parents had raised me to be independent, yes. They'd pushed me to work hard, to pay my own way through college, while Madison's tuition was covered entirely. They'd taught me that handouts created weakness. I'd believed them. I'd been proud of building my own life. But now I understood the truth. It wasn't about making me strong. It was about loving Madison more. I was scrolling through old family photos on my phone one night, torturing myself with memories, when I noticed something strange. In every picture from the past 5 years, Madison was always close to Mom and Dad, always whispering in Mom's ear, always pulling Dad aside for private conversations. Then I remembered something my mother had said to me about 6 months before she died. We'd been having coffee. Just the two of us, a rare moment alone. She'd looked at me with such sadness in her eyes. Elena, sweetheart, I need to tell you something about. But then Madison had called, some emergency about her new boutique needing investors, and Mom had rushed off. She'd never finished that sentence. What had she been trying to tell me? I opened my laptop and started digging through old emails. My parents had given me access to their shared family email account years ago for coordinating holidays and events. They'd never changed the password. What I found made my blood run cold. Emails, dozens of them. From Madison to our parents, spanning 3 years. Mom, Elena said something really hurtful to me today about how you spoil me. It really hurt. I don't think she understands how hard I'm trying. Dad, I'm worried about Elena. She seems so angry lately. She made a comment about the family money that made me uncomfortable. I hate to say this, but Elena told me she thinks you love me more. I tried to tell her that's not true, but she got so defensive. I'm worried about her mental state. Every email was a lie. Every single one. I'd never said any of those things. She'd been poisoning them against me slowly, methodically, for years. But the worst email came from 18 months ago. Mom and Dad, I know this is hard to hear, but I think Elena might try to take advantage of you financially when you're older. She's made comments about getting what she deserves from the family estate. I'm scared she might even contest the will if you don't make your intentions clear. Maybe you should protect yourselves? Protect the family legacy? I hate even thinking this about my own sister. But I love you both too much to stay silent. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the mouse. She'd done this. Madison had deliberately destroyed my relationship with our parents, slowly convincing them I was greedy, unstable, dangerous, all so she could have everything. And it had worked perfectly. I kept digging and found one more thing, a document my father had scanned and saved just 4 months before the accident. It was a handwritten note, dated about 2 weeks before that. Margaret, I'm having second thoughts about the will. Elena called yesterday just to check on us. No agenda, no requests. She sounded genuinely worried about my cough. Madison only calls when she needs something. Have we made a mistake? Should we reconsider the distribution? Something feels wrong. We need to talk about this. They'd been reconsidering. My father had started to see through Madison's manipulation. But then the accident happened, and the will was never changed. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding. Grief and rage mixed together into something I'd never felt before. This wasn't just about money. Madison had stolen my parents' love from me. She'd poisoned our last years together. Because of her lies, I'd spent the final months of their lives wondering why they seemed distant, why Mom avoided deep conversations, why Dad looked at me with something that resembled disappointment. She'd taken everything, and she'd done it with a smile on her face. But as I stared at those emails, a strange calm settled over me, because now I knew the truth, and the truth was power. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I planned. Madison thought she'd won. She had the money, the houses, the victory. She thought I was broken, defeated, out of the picture. That was her first mistake. I started by making copies of everything, every email, every document. I uploaded them to 3 different cloud storage accounts, printed physical copies, and put them in a safety deposit box. Whatever happened next, the truth would be preserved. Then I did something unexpected. I called Madison. Elena, she sounded surprised. How are you holding up? Not great, I said, letting my voice crack just a little. I've been thinking. You were right. Mom and Dad made their choice. Fighting it won't bring them back. I miss them so much. Oh, honey, I miss them too. She sounded so sincere. Such a good actress. Listen, I've been feeling terrible about how everything went down. What if I gave you some money? Not a lot, but enough to help you out? Maybe 50,000? 50,000 out of 10 million. Generous. That's really kind, Madison. Actually, I was hoping we could meet for coffee. I found some old family photos I thought you might want, and I need to apologize for how I acted at the lawyer's office. She paused. Apologize? Yeah. You're my only family now. I don't want to lose you too. This money thing, it doesn't matter. Family matters. I could practically hear her relief through the phone. Oh, Elena, yes. Let's meet. How about Thursday at that cafe Mom loved? Perfect. When Thursday came, I arrived early and set up my phone to record audio. Not for legal purposes, I knew anything recorded without consent wouldn't hold up in court. But I needed to hear her truth. I needed to know exactly who my sister was. Madison walked in wearing a designer dress I recognized from Paris Fashion Week. Our parents' money looked good on her. We hugged. She smelled like expensive perfume. You look good, she said, sitting down. I was worried about you. I'm managing. Actually, I wanted to thank you for being there for Mom and Dad during their last few years. I was so busy with work. I feel like I missed out on so much time with them. Her eyes lit up. She couldn't resist. Well, I did make sure to visit them every week. Those Sunday dinners meant everything to them. Did they ever talk about me during those dinners? She looked down at her coffee. Sometimes. They worried about you, Elena. They thought you were too focused on money, on success. They wanted you to find happiness beyond material things. The lies came so easily to her. Is that why they structured the will the way they did? I asked gently. Partly. Also. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. I think they knew I'd take care of you. They trusted that I'd make sure you were okay. It was actually really smart of them this way. I control the money, but I can still help you when you need it. It keeps things in the family. There it was. Control. That's what this had always been about. I smiled. You're probably right. Hey, I actually wanted to ask your advice on something. I'm thinking about starting my own marketing agency, but I'd need some startup capital. Do you think... Oh, Elena. She reached across and patted my hand. Maybe you should focus on stability first. Starting a business is so risky. What if you just worked on building your savings for now? Right. Of course. You're right. She relaxed, satisfied. She thought she'd won completely. She thought I'd come crawling to her for scraps, and she could control me with the promise of occasional handouts for the rest of my life. We finished our coffee with small talk. I hugged her goodbye and told her I loved her. Then I went home and made a phone call. Mr. Harrison, this is Elena. I need to ask you something about estate law and fraud. The next 3 months were the longest of my life, but I played my part perfectly. I stayed in touch with Madison. I was the sweet, defeated older sister who'd accepted her place. I asked her for small amounts of money, 1,000 here for car repairs, 2,000 there for unexpected medical bills. She gave it to me with that patronizing smile, and I thanked her profusely each time. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was building my case. Mr. Harrison had been very interested in the emails I'd shown him. After reviewing everything, he informed me that while the will itself was technically legal, Madison's actions constituted something called fraudulent interference with an inheritance expectation. But there was a problem. Proving it in court would be expensive, time-consuming, and uncertain. We needed more than just emails. We needed Madison to expose herself. That's when I got creative. I hired a private investigator named Marcus. His specialty? Financial fraud. I gave him everything I had on Madison and asked him to dig into her life before the inheritance. What he found was explosive. Madison's boutique, the one she'd been running for 3 years? Completely failing. She was drowning in debt. Over $2 million in debt, mostly from bad business decisions and expensive personal spending. She'd taken out loans from questionable sources, the kind of people who don't appreciate late payments. Those Sunday dinners with mom and dad? They weren't about family bonding. Madison had been setting up her survival plan. She'd known for years that she needed that inheritance to save herself, but Marcus found something even better. Madison had been sloppy. After getting the inheritance, she'd paid off all her debts in one massive transaction, but she'd told the loan companies and creditors that the money came from business profits, not inheritance. Why? Because several of those loans had been fraudulent. She'd lied on the applications about her income and assets. Financial fraud, tax implications, a whole web of illegal activity. I took everything to Mr. Harrison. Can we use this? He smiled for the first time since I'd met him. Elena, your sister has committed multiple felonies. If we bring this to the right people, she won't just lose the inheritance. She could face serious criminal charges. I don't want her in prison, I said quietly. I just want justice. And I want her to know what it feels like to lose everything. We crafted a plan. A beautiful, perfect plan. Mr. Harrison reached out to Madison's legal representative with an official letter. In it, we detailed every fraudulent loan, every illegal business practice, and every tax law she'd violated. We included copies of her loan applications compared to her actual financial records. We showed the timeline of the inheritance and the immediate debt payoffs. But here's the key. We offered her a deal. Return the full inheritance to the estate for proper redistribution according to our parents' true intentions, which we'd argue were corrupted by her fraud, cover all legal fees, and publicly admit to the manipulation. If she agreed, we wouldn't pursue criminal charges. If she refused, we'd send everything to the IRS, the FBI, and every creditor she'd defrauded. We'd also contest the will in court with our evidence of her manipulation. Madison had 1 week to decide. She lasted 3 days before she called me, sobbing. Elena, please, you can't do this to me. I'm your sister. You should have thought about that before you spent 3 years destroying my relationship with our parents, I said calmly. I'll give you money. I'll give you half. I don't want your money, Madison. I want you to face what you've done. They'll destroy me! The criminal charges, Elena, please. Then take the deal. Admit the truth. Make it right. She screamed at me, called me vindictive, cruel, heartless, said I was just jealous, that I'd always been jealous. You have 4 days left to decide, I said and hung up. On day 6, her lawyer contacted Mr. Harrison. Madison would take the deal. The estate redistribution took another month to finalize, but when it was done, everything changed. Madison had to liquidate several assets to cover legal fees and penalties. The inheritance was split evenly between us, as it should have been from the start. $5 million each. But more importantly, she had to sign a legal document admitting to the manipulation and fraud. It would be kept sealed unless she ever tried to dispute the settlement or contacted me against my wishes. The day the money hit my account, I didn't feel the joy I'd expected. I felt tired, sad. I'd won, but the cost was everything I'd believed about my family. I used some of the money to start a foundation in my parents' names. It provides scholarships to students who are working their way through college without family financial support. The kids my parents claim to admire so much, I'd help them directly. I bought a house, nothing extravagant, just a place that felt like home. I quit my exhausting marketing job and started freelance consulting, working with nonprofits. As for Madison, I heard through distant relatives that she moved to another state. The social media posts stopped. The designer lifestyle disappeared. I don't know if she learned anything from this, or if she just resents me more than ever. Part of me hopes she found some clarity. Part of me doesn't care anymore. 6 months after everything was finalized, I visited my parents' grave for the first time since the funeral. I'd been too angry before, too hurt. But that day, I finally felt ready. I sat on the grass beside their headstone and talked to them. I told them about the emails, about Madison's deception, about the pain of feeling unloved. But I also thanked them for raising me to be strong enough to survive this, for teaching me that I didn't need anyone's approval to have value. I wish you'd seen through her lies, I whispered. I wish we'd had those last few years together without her poison between us. But I forgive you. You were human. You made mistakes. And I hope, wherever you are, you understand why I had to fight for this. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees. It felt like an answer. As I drove home that day, I realized something important. This story wasn't really about money. It never had been. It was about being seen, being valued, being loved for who you are, not who someone claims you to be. Madison tried to erase me from my own family's story. She tried to make me invisible, worthless, undeserving. And for a while, I believed her. I believed that maybe I really was the problem, that maybe I really didn't deserve their love. But here's what I learned. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, not by parents who make misguided decisions, not by siblings who betray you, not by anyone. You determine your own worth. And when someone tries to take that from you, you have every right to fight back. Not with cruelty, not with their weapons, but with truth, with strategy, with the unshakable knowledge that you deserve justice. Some people call what I did revenge. Maybe they're right, but I call it restoration. I restored the truth. I restored balance. I restored my own sense of dignity and value. If you're out there right now, feeling invisible in your own family, being gaslit by someone you trust, wondering if you're crazy for feeling hurt, you're not. Trust your instincts, document everything, and when the time is right, don't be afraid to fight for yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person who needs to believe in your worth is you. And that's the inheritance no one can ever take away.